Well, I was talking to an old timer in Avaz, Missouri, and he asked me if I'd heard anything about my grandfather's time in law enforcement. And I said, no, I thought he was a house painter and a carpenter. He said, well, he was in law enforcement, and it's quite an interesting story. And so he told me this story. Well, after I heard that, I said, that can't be my grandfather. No possible way. He said, well, if you don't believe me, there's a guy out in Lancaster, California you need to talk to. There's a gal in Hillview, or in Winchester, Illinois, and a lady in Jacksonville that you need to talk to because they're the daughters of Charlie Whitworth's deputies. So after doing that, I went to see all of these people. It took me quite a long time, and I ended up spending 4.5 years of my life writing this very exciting true story of crime and punishment. Marshal Charlie Whitworth, as I now call him, who was my grandfather, he and his 3 brothers were hunters and trappers and all of this. And they lived in Missouri, and they came over to a small community to sell some hunting dogs, stopped for a drink in Hillview, Illinois. Hillview was a very up-and-coming town. Unfortunately, this town was ran by we call the river rats. These guys were so bad that the people didn't even want to leave their homes after dark because this gang ran the town. They attacked my grandfather and his 3 brothers while they were there, and it didn't come out too well. The mayor saw it and offered my grandfather the job as marshal, which nobody would take. One marshal disappeared completely. The others just took them and their deputies and left town. They didn't want to get murdered. My grandfather, for some unknown reason, decided that he'd take a shot at being the marshal if his 3 brothers could be deputies. And so that's what happened, and that's what caused Charlie Whitworth and his 3 brothers to be the marshal and deputies. Yeah, there's no law enforcement in Hillview at the time this happened, none whatsoever. They took the job, and before fall came, they entered into an agreement to be law enforcement and moved to Hillview, Illinois, with their entire family and began very diligently to try to control the crime. The book, of course, goes into great detail about how that happened, how they attempted to control the crime, and what happened eventually. You have to read the book, of course, to find that part of it out, but it's very accurate, the book itself. I wrote the book about 5 years ago, and it was released, and this is important. That book is sold worldwide, and it's been a very successful book. The important thing to know is that if you want to buy a Whitworth Files, you can buy it any place. Worldwide. We have about maybe 30 to 40,000 readers right now. It's listed in large bookstores as Crime and Punishment, True Crime and Punishment at Barnes & Noble. I, of course, I am the publisher of the book now. I have had the opportunity to be introduced to some people who have written a screenplay about this book, and at this time are involved in considering doing a film. Okay. I actually get royalties from Japan. The 30,000 or 40,000 readers, because there's about 30 outlets for this book that I know of personally, that I've been able to track down who is selling this book. Because it got a 3 out of 4 star rating when it was published, and people do look for that on Amazon and everywhere. So this book needs to be made into a film because it's so Americana. This needs to be made into a film so that people can realize what went on then, how patriotic people were. But even so, there was crime and punishment, and the Whitwer brothers simply did their part in solving that problem for a small community on the Illinois River. And that's what the book is all about.